name is Ato Ulzen-Appiah. I come from Elmina. I grew up in Kumasi. I live in Accra. I care a lot about Ghana and I love Africa. Professionally, I am the director of the GhanaThink Foundation and I am also the entrepreneurship development specialist at the Kosmos Innovation Centre. I went to PSEC, studied science, and I knew I wanted to do engineering for my first degree. I ended up doing civil engineering at MIT, but whilst I was doing my undergrad, I realized that I had a lot of interest in lots of different things that were not engineering per se, especially in technology and business. After I was done with my first degree, I went to Stanford to do a master's in construction engineering management. And whilst doing this master's, it dawned on me that I don't really want to spend my life doing just civil engineering. So I heard that Google was the top company to work for in the world. So I started thinking about how can I go and work at Google? So my first thought was I can go to Google and work with their building team or their facilities team. And then later on, as I was using more and more Google products, I was thinking about product development or product management, that I could actually join Google and manage one of their products. A year or so after, I realized that Google had started establishing more of a presence on the African continent. So I applied to join Google and I felt I was a very strong candidate for the role that I applied for. I applied for a business development role at Google to be with the Ghana office. I didn't get that role, but the interesting thing is because of the kind of work that I had done in the past, they actually recommended me for another role. So I basically moved to Ghana with Google as a program manager focusing on outreach and developer relations. In that role, I was overseeing outreach to digital communities in sub-Saharan Africa, incubators, developer groups, universities, students, basically people who work with digital tools. And a lot of the people in these communities were young people. So I've always been interested in young people. So youth empowerment, helping young people become great. And pretty much since this role in Google, I've always said that I work at the intersection of youth and tech, especially digital. So that's what I've mostly done within my career. Eventually after Google, I ended up working for a tech company in Ghana called Rankard, where I was a product and a project manager. So I've always been interested in the digital space and I've continued to parlay that into the work that I've done. I've done a lot of work mentoring and coaching startups that are especially tech, and that helped me end up in the current role that I'm in at Kosmos Innovation Centre. So the Kosmos Innovation Centre, I'm an entrepreneurship development specialist. I basically manage our entrepreneurship training program where we transform, invest, and support young entrepreneurs who are building solutions in the agri value chain. When I was doing my undergrad, I joined a group of young Ghanaians. It was an online group, something like a Facebook group today. And it was made up of young Ghanaians who were quite intellectual. They were attending top universities around the world, including in Ghana. So it was more like a think tank where we would discuss how could we solve certain problems that are common in Ghana. But eventually we started talking about what could we as young people do to solve some of these problems. So I've always been interested in problem solving. And I think it goes back to studying engineering and how can we as young people solve these problems? So how can young people be empowered to solve problems around them? So that looks at engineering. It also looks at entrepreneurship because entrepreneurs basically solve problems. They take on the risk and then they reap the reward. So I've continue to work in this space, and the opportunity with Kosmos Innovation Centre allowed me to be at the heart of helping young people solve problems as entrepreneurs. I hadn't really done a lot of work within the agri space, but it's a space that challenged me because I had to learn a lot around the industry, and it's been exciting and rewarding, and I've learned a lot from doing this. I returned to Ghana in 2011 to work with Google. And through the work that I was doing then, and especially with the GhanaThink Foundation, I have always been interacting with lots of entrepreneurs, especially startups. And when we think about startups, people like to talk about building cool innovations and cool products. But I've always maintained that it's not about building cool products. It's about building solutions within the context of where we are, especially our cultural neighborhood. Apart from looking at the context, we also have to look at the content. So we have to build solutions to solve problems that can easily be solved, or we can even make more money by applying innovation to it. So over the next 5 to 10 years, I expect to see that a lot of people who are training entrepreneurs or supporting entrepreneurs would help them understand that we need to build things that are commercially viable. We have to build things that take into consideration the culture that we live in and how that culture is constantly changing and the context within which we work. So if we do this kind of training, we would have more successful startups, more successful businesses, much better communities that we are in, and a much better country and continent. I've been working in management roles for the last 15 years, and as a manager, I think some of the most important skills include documentation, communication, and reporting. So documentation helps you to be able to manage what you are doing, whether it's a product or a project or a program. It helps you to be able to figure out what is going on, what needs to be done, what kind of feedback you need, what kind of aspects need to come in to be able to manage what you're doing better. And then reporting is extremely important, whether it is top down from you to someone who manages you, or from you to other people that you manage or you work with. So being able to come up with reports that are succinct, clear, can easily be leveraged by people who come after you is extremely important. And then communication. So if there's a project that is going on, or a program or a product that is being sold, or a service, we always need to be able to communicate particular challenges that we are facing, particular challenges that we might face, how we've solved certain things in the past, and even risks that we might meet and how we might solve it. So for me, being able to document very well, being able to report very well, and being able to communicate really well, whether it's written or typed or verbal communication, these are really important skills. I think a lot of people will think of managers as leaders. And I remember at Presec, I learned that a leader is someone who knows the way, shows the way, and goes the way. But as managers, especially in current dispensations, it's not just about knowing, showing, and going the way. Managers need to be able to work with people to go the way. People always say that a lot of people who manage people or who manage businesses, projects, programs, always try to work with people who are smarter than them. Because it's not just about knowing the way. You need to be able to learn. So we should not see managers as people who know everything. They continuously learn, and they must continuously have an attitude of learning. Having this attitude of learning, which would help managers to be able to suggest solutions with any kind of problem that comes up. And it's mostly because they've been in certain experiences, or they've been in certain situations where they can pull in some information to bring information around how we can solve a certain issue. So it's really important that we don't see managers as people who know everything and who have done everything, but people continuously want to be able to learn so that they know the way even better, and they can show the way because they've seen several situations, and then they go the way with the people that they are managing or they're working with. I think the best career advice I've ever received is to continuously communicate, report, and document the work that I'm doing. I think for people who are managing products, projects, programs, etc., having the experience really counts. The professional experience or doing things really counts. So I think this is a role that is not so much about what you've studied in school, but having managed something, even if it's much smaller than what you're about to manage. So the recruitment here looks more at being able to work with people, being able to think on your feet, troubleshoot. So it really looks at the experience of managing things before or working with lots of people. I'll say that's how it differs from other roles. when I was doing my undergrad, some of the best jobs that people around me wanted to get into was to work on Wall Street in the financial sector because the pay there was top notch. And one of the things I heard was when Wall Street people are hiring, they will take potential candidates to go and chill, right? So they will go and chill somewhere in New York and they will chill deep into the night. And the people that they could chill with easily are those that they would hire. What this tells us is that most people hire for fit. They hire people that they can hang out with at 2 a.m., at 10 a.m., on Sunday at 9 p.m. You would always have people who have the knowledge, right? They've studied this in school. They've built experience working with other people. But the people skills of working together well and that culture is probably the most important thing. So I would always look for people that I can gel really with, communicate really with, and work together very well. Personally, I'm really interested in productivity. I like to work smart more than working hard. I like to have technology help me do things easily. So my biggest challenges in managing and leading others would be if we are not working productively and we are spending too much time to get things done. We are spending too much time to make decisions. Things that we can do quickly. For me, those would be my biggest challenges. And I just think that if we all learn how to be efficient and be productive with our time and leverage the technology tools around us or leverage different things around us, we can all be more successful. So even to the point of being able to delegate really well, that maybe someone can do this thing very well. So if they do it, we will save time, we will save money, and we will save, even the amount of effort. So for me, I'll say those are my biggest challenges in working with and managing and leading others. Yeah. Around career development, I believe in learning by doing. I think being able to take on new tasks, new projects, new problems will make myself and my team more versatile so that we can get more things done. I think it's also really important to look at career development from the point of view of customers, stakeholders, and partners. So a lot of the work we do goes to serve people. It goes to help make money for the organization that we are in or support for the organization that we are in. So doing that and doing that well tends to open opportunities for other things we can do to serve those same customers, stakeholders, and partners. And I think once that happens, it shows us clearly what else we need to learn to be able to make more money from our customers or to be able to get more funds from our partners and our clients. So that's how I like to approach what we have to develop ourselves in so far as career is concerned. So when I was doing my undergrad, because I was thinking about all the other things apart from civil engineering, I was debating doing a double major in civil engineering and management. But I realized that would be too much work. So I wanted to choose between civil engineering and management. I discussed this with my dad, who is a retired senior lecturer from KNUST. And I think because he's more old school, he was like, obviously you have to go and do engineering and not management. I haven't regretted doing engineering, but I think if I had the chance again, I would have probably chosen management. And that is because I think it should have gotten me quicker to what I have done later in my career. I'm very passionate about youth empowerment and contributing and ensuring that a lot of youth in my cultural neighborhood, Ghana and beyond, are competent and are able to get lots of things done. So I'm really excited about how we can continuously use technology to transform young people so that we can have a lot more competent people in our ecosystem. I always say that I am more concerned about the lack of competent job seekers than the number of unemployed people, because I've interacted and engaged lots of businesses, startups, to big businesses who would be trying to hire for people in Ghana and they can't find good candidates. I think it's a much bigger problem than people not finding jobs. So I'm excited about what we can do to ensure that we have so many competent people in Ghana to the point that people are hiring Ghanaians because we are just known to be competent. And I'm excited about working on that with other people to make that a reality. We are in a developing country where lots of people who have money in our country don't want people to know that they have money, as opposed to our neighboring country like Nigeria. What that means is that for lots of entrepreneurs, it's very, very difficult to get funding from people who have money. So I've always felt that the most important thing that entrepreneurs need is mentorship more than funding. Because if you have mentorship, you learn about how you're going to find money or make money if no one is funding you. So mentorship takes a lot of ways. You have professional mentors. So if you are in a startup and you're the CFO, you can get someone else who's in finance to mentor you on the finance-related things. But there's also the idea of coaching, whereby mentors help entrepreneurs understand things that they're not thinking through, and they help businesses figure out all the things that they need to do to become successful. So mentorship for me is extremely important for an entrepreneur, for someone who's developing an entrepreneur, or even for someone who is funding an entrepreneur, to be able to find the information, to be able to make good decisions about what to fund and who to fund. When we talk about technology, sometimes we think too much about building it and software. I think in our ecosystem, we need to be able to consume technology better. So there are lots of different tools that we can leverage to do different things. Instagram for marketing, Facebook pages for customer feedback and satisfaction, Google Apps Suite for productivity and managing. I think if we think a lot about productivity and trying to do more with less or get more bang for our buck, we would understand the importance of leveraging technology, and we would also be able to learn from people how they've been able to do this so that we can also do better. There's a popular game called Angry Birds, which was built by Rovio. Angry Birds was their 53rd game. So they had built 52 games. Angry Birds was the one that became really popular and then made them really successful. Entrepreneurship is not easy. We talk a lot about entrepreneurship as a pathway because maybe there are not as many jobs. But we should not romanticize entrepreneurship. We should understand that it is a difficult thing to do. And before you become really successful as an entrepreneur, you might fail. In fact, you would fail. So it's important to fail fast, and even when you are failing, look at the lessons you can learn from failing so that the next thing that you do can be more successful. So if you want to go into entrepreneurship, it's really important that you can learn how to fail by failing with others, and maybe you'll not be the CEO at that point. So I think it's really important that we practice this, learn about it before we take the plunge of doing it full-time or leading an enterprise.